Good evening, everyone. I call this October 10th, 2023 hybrid administrative meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to order. And I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance, but first I ask for a moment of silence and hope that we all think and pray for those in the Middle East and pray for peace. Thank you. Please stand.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We move now to item 3, announcements and additions. Madam County Manager, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Commissioners, yes. So item 3A, National PA Week, to be added on the agenda is item 5C. Also, under Technical Services, amendments to the Bernalillo County Code, Chapter 42, Article 4, to be about regarding the water wells to be deferred. And then also, I myself, I'm respectfully requesting item 10A, the opioid settlement funding policy, to be moved up on the agenda to be heard immediately following public comment and communications as item 6A, and a vote is required for the changes.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
Are there any other changes, Commissioners? Seeing none, I move approval of the agenda as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
We got
I just
agenda-
have one question,
Oh,
if I could,
yeah,
sorry.
Yes.
I just want, does moving it under item 6A make any difference in, no, as a under communications?
So
Are we moving it
it'll follow immediately public comment. So we'll hear public comment, and then we'll go into 6A.
Okay.
Madam Commissioner,
It's then under like adoption of ordinance, so does that make any
Right,
difference?
correct. So it's adoption of a resolution.
So the motion will be to adopt the
Correct.
resolution. We've just moved it up on the agenda
Okay.
right after. I think we have some speakers on that issue as well as the county manager desire to move it up. So,
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Benson?
thank you. Which item was the wells that was being deferred?
Item 9C, I believe, is that right? Yes.
And
And-
before I vote in favor or against, can I ask why that was being deferred?
Yes, we had a communication from the Water Utility Authority, and although staff had talked with them, there were still some remaining issues to be worked out, and we felt it would be best to defer it so that the staffs could make sure that we're moving something forward that our Water Utility Authority agrees with.
If we were to vote to approve it, this is just for public comment though, correct?
Yes, that's right, it's just being introduced.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask to not, I'm okay with all the other amendments to the agenda, except I would ask that we move forward with that so that it's open to public comment, and then Water Authority would have full authority to make public comment to amend it. That would be my only request.
Yeah. Well, Commissioner, it's been voted on, and one thing I would add is I've communicated with the executive of the Water Utility Authority, Mark Sanchez, and he specifically, has some concerns that need to be sit around the table and have a conversation about changes, and so I defer to his expertise sitting on the Water Authority Board, and I would allow for that. I think that it will be a better solution, but I don't know the details, the technical details, but that's the reason for that.
Okay. I would vote no, but respect your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move forward on the agenda. Item number 4, count on us minute. County Manager?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the community already knows that it can count on our sheriff's deputies every day to serve our community and to protect us. And they're always there when we need them the most. So now, because of the training collaboration with fire and rescue, BCSO deputies are arriving on the scene armed with a new medical skill that is already proving to be a lifesaver. So the new training program is featured in our Count on Us Minute. And I know that we have paramedics involved in the training program here this evening. So go ahead, Tia, let's go ahead, and if you could show the video. Thanks.
Well, it was a night to remember at the Isleta Amphitheater for fans of the band The Cure this summer. It's a night BCSO Detective Cameron Carroll will never forget. He and his two partners found themselves faced with a life or death situation.
I knew something was not right and she needed our help. She was not breathing very well. Within a few seconds, I was no longer getting any breathing and I was not getting any heartbeat. So I started doing a CPR.
While Detective Carroll was performing CPR, his partners were setting up an automatic external defibrillator.
Adult mode.
Also known as an AED device.
Let's get it around. Delivering. Shock delivery.
I took my hands off and stopped doing CPR. It provided that electrical stimulus, and then we continued CPR. It shocked her twice over the course of our time together, and at that point, we were able to recover a heartbeat and get some breathing back. So we went from having nothing to having signs of life.
What we're going to do today is we're going to create efficiency in our cardiac arrest treatment.
What's so unique about this life-saving effort is that only a few months earlier, Detective Carroll and many of his fellow deputies were trained in a classroom by paramedic Gabe DeBaltz from Bernalillo County Fire and Rescue.
In reality, the fact that Detective Carroll recognized that this woman was in cardiac arrest and provided prompt action and continued to keep blood flow to the brain, and then ultimately they ended up with the AED on this particular patient in under 5 minutes, which is really phenomenal by any standards.
And also in reality, law enforcement can typically get to the scene of most life or death situations 3 to 5 minutes before paramedics.
And we know just from the data historically that every single minute that somebody is not getting adequate CPR done, they're 10% less likely to survive that event.
Since our jobs overlap quite frequently, it's a good thing. We were able to know how they respond, how they need things, and vice versa. They know what we do and what we're trained to do, and then we've kind of made it a cohesive plan of action when people need our help.
4, 5, 6.
DeBaltz gives BCSO credit for stepping up and not only asking for the training, but embracing it 100%.
Unfortunately, there's many places still left in the country where people become very siloed in their way that they operate. And you'll hear a lot of law enforcement will say, that's not my job. And in reality, the Sheriff's Department stepping up and saying, I want that to be part of my job, was one of the biggest changes that we could have.
For Detective Carroll and his partners Detective Garcia and Detective Lopez, who confront death continually, giving life on this day gave a whole new meaning to the term protect and serve.
So as a homicide detective, we deal with death all the time, and very rarely do we get to have happy endings. So I'm just very grateful that we were able to have this training.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah.
So good evening, commissioners. So I've got Gabe DeBalt with me, who is our lead instructor for our EMS division. And the work that he has been doing together with our sheriff's department is phenomenal, as you can see by what has happened now. And this isn't the first incident that we've got record now of our sheriff's department saving lives. And that's all what it's about, is in step with our community and doing everything we can to help them. So I don't know if Gabe, if you want to say just a few words.
The chief pretty much summed it up really eloquently, but he's provided the opportunity, as well as the sheriff's departments, for us to collaborate. The sheriffs, I have to give them full credit on this, because they are the ones that have reached out for the training, and they've embraced everything that we've asked them to do. And right now, we know that we basically do a dual department response over 100 times a week. And for them to be on scenes anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes in front of us is really giving us an edge in saving and protecting people's lives in the community. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
I'd just like to
Vice
make
Chair.
a quick comment, Chair.
Yeah.
Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for, I think you said it so well on the video and right now, and, to say that sheriffs asking for the training is just a huge step. Like, I'm surprised to know that wasn't previous, right? But so grateful that it happened, and what a great partnership between our own EMT, our own paramedics and our sheriff's office. So just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. Now we move on to proclamations. 5A, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Commissioner Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm honored to read this proclamation from the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners, sponsored by all commissioners. Whereas since 2004, the President of the United States and Congress have declared the month of October to be Cybersecurity Awareness Month, making 2023 the 20th anniversary of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And whereas cybersecurity affects us both in our personal lives and our workplaces. And whereas cybersecurity is a mindset we should adopt whenever we use technology. And whereas last year, ransomware attacks increased 93% year over year. And whereas on average, hackers attack 26,000 times a day or every 3 seconds. And whereas 80% of data breaches are the result of poor and reused passwords. And whereas social engineering is the act of psychologically manipulating a computer user into disclosing confidential information or granting access to restricted systems, no matter how powerful a company's security protections may be, no amount of technology will prevent a careless computer user from opening a malicious link. And whereas phishing attacks account for 90% of data breaches, and whereas all Bernalillo County residents are encouraged to 1, turn on multi-factor authentication, 2, update their software, 3, think before they click, 4, use strong passwords. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 23rd as of 2023 as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, done this 10th day of October 2023 in Bernalillo County, State of New Mexico. Thank you, Mr. Benavides. And I'm guilty, by the way, of reusing old passwords, so.
I think we could all agree with that sometimes. Commissioners, Madam Chair, thank you for this proclamation. Thank you for the opportunity to say a couple of words. I wanted to use this opportunity to introduce Miss Victoria Castellano, who recently took on responsibility for managing our cybersecurity team at Bernalillo County. It's a new position for her. She's been in about 6 months, but behind that, she has 23 years of IT experience with Bernalillo County, mostly supporting HR. She's done a fantastic job bringing that team a long way in 6 short months. So I want to introduce her. Commissioner stated the 4 things we're trying to get people to practice as part of the security awareness this month is strong passwords, more than 12 characters, complex, capitals, lowercase, numbers, numeric. Turn on MFA if you can on any of your accounts. Anything that's financial, email accounts, social media. Amazon is an easy one that you can turn on that causes a lot of problems. Update our software. Our phones are getting updates on a weekly basis these days, combating those sorts of things. And then, phishing. Phishing now comes not only in email, but text as well. So reporting those things if you can, ignoring them and deleting them rather than forwarding them on are our best practices. The other thing I wanted to share in closing is later this week, I'm proud to announce that New Mexico will become the first state in the nation to convene a cybersecurity summit of cybersecurity leaders across the board. It's part of the program that the governor launched about a year ago. And so we'll gather in Santa Fe later this week to try to catalyze more collaboration across cybersecurity leaders at all levels, state, local, tribal, educational. So once again, thank you for the proclamation and stay safe.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do a picture. The second proclamation, 5B, Commissioner Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I read the proclamation, I just want to just let everybody know that this means a lot to me. Just recently, within the last year, I had a good friend who lost their home due to a cooking accident. And unfortunately, it was on the reservation. So by the time anybody was able to respond, she had lost absolutely everything. So that's why this is, I think, important to all of us to hear this evening. It is my honor and to represent the whole Board of Commissioners who signed this, and this is Fire Prevention Week. So let me just read the proclamation. Whereas the County of Bernalillo is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Bernalillo County, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern and reduces and residents are where people are and the greatest risk, and whereas the 2023 National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You. Pay attention to fire prevention. Reminds us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. And whereas 2 out of 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of those fires resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas Bernalillo County residents and visitors should turn pot handles to the back of the stove. Keep a lid nearby when cooking. Keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove and oven. Keep an eye on what they heat. Set a timer to remind them that they are cooking. And whereas Bernalillo County first responders are dedicated to reducing the ordinance of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme is Cooking Safety Starts With You, pay attention to fire prevention. Effectively serves to educate the public on simple but important actions they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe when cooking. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th, 2023, Fire Prevention Week. So, yeah. So as I think everybody knows, from time to time, I work on cruise ships, and the most dangerous thing on a cruise ship, and you would think, is the water and sinking, but it's not. The most dangerous thing that could happen to a ship in the middle of the ocean is fire. So I know those kitchens are very, very on top of how they cook and when they cook and what's going around. So please.
I'm Chairman Commission. Mark McConnell, Deputy Fire, well, actually changed now, sorry. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations, formerly the Fire Marshal for Bernalillo County. I really want to say that on behalf of all the fire marshals, one of our favorite quotes is, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." And you taking part in that with us today is very meaningful, and we're very grateful. So thank you very much for this proclamation.
Come on up and get your proclamation. Thank you. And our final proclamation on National PA Week, Commissioner Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is National PA Week, and this is a very personal recognition for me to give, as well as my wife is a physician associate. So in our house, every week is PA Week. And also, here in the county building, the health clinic is the primary provider is Marissa Romero, who is also a PA. So PAs are everywhere, and I don't feel like they receive enough attention, but we're going to give it a shot tonight. So is Stacy Smith here? Come on up. Thank you. So we're going to embarrass you for a second if you can just stand there. And Stacy is with the New Mexico Association of PAs. Okay, so from the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners, sponsored by all the commissioners, whereas quality, cost-effective, and accessible patient-centered healthcare provided by PAs, physician assistants, and/or physician associates contributes to the well-being and quality of life for all patients. And whereas PAs are rigorously educated and trained healthcare professionals who are defined by their commitment to putting patients first and using their medical expertise, comprehensive diagnostic skills, and compassion to improve the health of patients and entire communities. And whereas PAs are experts who complete rigorous medical education and training and must complete 100 hours of continuing medical education every 2 years to maintain certification. And whereas PAs practice medicine in every setting, from hospitals and urgent care centers to outpatient offices and clinics, and in all medical and surgical specialties, including family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, and more. And whereas PAs are often the first point of contact for many patients and play a vital role in helping them understand their medical needs and empower them to become effective advocates for their own health, often serving as a patient's principal healthcare provider. And whereas PAs, a valuable asset to the medical team, enhance the delivery of high-quality health care for patients, often in medically underserved and rural areas. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2023 as National PA Week. Throughout Bernalillo County, it encourages all of our residents to recognize PAs for the significant impact they have made and continue to make in healthcare as a critical part of the healthcare team. Done this 10th day of October 2023 in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico. Thank you. And Stacy, do you have anything to say?
Nobody said I had to talk, but no, I appreciate that. I'm like Commissioner Benson said, I'm with the New Mexico Academy of PAs. There's over 900 of us PAs in the state practicing in all specialties and in primary care. And I think all of you can attest to how difficult it is to see a provider, let alone a primary care provider. So I appreciate this recognition, and I'm so thankful for you inviting us here today. Thank you.
Come on up.
Thank you. Come on up.
Now we'll move on to item 6, public comment and communications. We will move, each person has 2 minutes and you will be alerted about your remaining time. When your name is called, please make your way up to the podium if you are speaking in person. Before making your statements, please state your name for the record. To maintain order and decorum, and in the spirit of professionalism and respect to everyone present, speakers must adhere to the 2-minute time limit. If the conduct of the presenter violates these rules, they may be subject to removal. Julianne, can you please call the names?
Madam Chair, there are 17 signed up for this evening. We will start with in-person participants. Dawn Schrader, followed by Ramona Goolsby, followed by Dr. Harold Bailey.
Don Schrader. I have never owned a gun. I hate guns. I drink no booze. A gun in the home is far more likely to kill oneself, a family member, or a friend than a stranger breaking in. Some years ago, a retired white Albuquerque judge shot and killed his former wife and himself. If anyone could have told him years before he would kill her and himself, could he have believed it? My parents were miserable cellmates until death in the prison of marriage. Very hard on both of them. I wish they had parted. Some couples become better friends when no longer living together. Fortunately, my parents were not boozers and no gun in our home. A severely abused young white man shot and killed my father's parents in bed in Illinois in 1976. A man pulled a gun on me here in the 1970s. Two brothers who were both New York City cops had 10 years of spotless records. In an awful argument, one brother shot and killed the other. We all are capable of terrifying, deadly violence, even toward our closest loved ones, especially if we own a gun, if we drink booze, if we're addicted to violent movies and video games.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
Ramona Goolsby, followed by Dr. Harold Bailey, followed by John Veltri.
Good evening, Chair Baca, Commissioners. My name is Ramona Goolsby, and I will start with the statement, elections have consequences. Tonight, I want to talk to the Commission about concerns I have about corporate welfare. I want to talk to you about the recent industrial revenue bonds that were issued by Bernalillo County for the acquisition and renovation of the Marriott Pyramid. On August 22nd, 2023, the Bernalillo County Commission approved an industrial revenue bond for $39 million for this. We have a record number of homeless, drug addiction, crime, and failing infrastructure. Our education system is one of the worst in the nation. There are thousands of people pouring across the borders, and I was informed that there are busloads now coming from Texas to Albuquerque. In light of this, the Commission felt it was appropriate at this time to help a private corporation purchase a hotel and provide the money to renovate it. Supposedly, there will be 23 full-time jobs, 1 part-time, created once completed, and there are going to be 196 construction jobs, which are temporary. This is a private hospitality corporation, not a hospital or a school or other publicly beneficial entity. If it was such a great deal, why did they not just use private capital? Did they see that there would not be a return on their investment? There are many more questions than answers, but researchers are continuing to look. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, County Manager, distinguished Commissioners, my name is Harold Bailey. I'm president of the Albuquerque branch of the NAACP. I'm here as a community partner, not a critic. I'm here to give each of you a snapshot of our position on several issues within the county and the Metropolitan Detention Center. Several parents, family members, and ex-inmates of MDC have communicated to the NAACP that improper treatment and violation of civil rights take place while incarcerated. There have been public announcements of controversial treatment of inmates. Staff have been accused of inappropriate contact with female inmates, and in some cases, extreme violence have been committed against male inmates. It is the belief of the NAACP that anti-racism training is needed, anti-Black, anti-LGBTQ plus training need to be implemented in the overall strategy sooner than later. We all need to know how to work with and treat diverse inmates and people in general. Regardless of the job title, we all can use some type of personal and professional development. We need to decrease crimes that are being committed within MDC by staff. I submit that it's a small number. However, 3 or 4 bad apples can infect the whole staff. Inmates have rights and they should be respected. They do not lose all of them just because they are locked up. The city and county need to ensure inmates get proper medical attention and treatment. Behavioral health and general health are crucial. The city and county need to develop a collective strategic action plan to address specific needs of the staff and those incarcerated. Diverse communities in the city and county need to be part of the discussion on how to address key issues and problems. If we work together, we can eliminate duplication of services. The opioid settlement funds of millions and millions of dollars need to be spent on relevant programs and projects. The hiring of diverse individuals is key. I submit that professional contractors and consultants can play a role. These funds need to be utilized properly and effectively. We also need to respect the families. Is that it? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey.
Brian Carlin, followed by Kelly Opp, followed by Dr. Feen Coleman. Go ahead.
Thought you were going to skip me. No handouts tonight. Good evening, John Beltry, nonpartisan, New Mexico Election Transparency Network Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I'd like to talk briefly about restoring election integrity to the federal elections. Without election integrity, we are no longer governed by the consent of the governed. Federal elections shall be held on the first Tuesday following the first Monday of November on even number years, and no state, local election shall be held within 60 days of such federal elections. Each citizen having been lawfully registered to vote shall personally present themselves to the assigned polling place on election day with verifiable photographic identification and shall affix their right thumbprint on the paper ballot, which shall be retained for 1 year. This is proposed constitutional amendment language. Designing federal elections with integrity should not be a difficult process. You should think that all Americans would want to do the same and be on the same page about conducting elections with integrity, but the truth is there are many who are willing to cheat in order to win, and there are many that will turn a blind eye to those that cheat so that the outcome is desirable for them, as they have no interest in recognizing the truth about the lack of election integrity in the United States, and they are unwilling to permit we the people to restore such election integrity. All American citizens should value the election integrity above election results, regardless of party, and for freedom, loving people around the world conducting fair and free elections with integrity in their home counties, and should be number one priority as well as the standard of how elections should be ran with transparency and accountability, and not to mention integrity. We can maximize integrity without sacrificing efficiency in the voting process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Brian Carlin, Kelly Opp, Dr. Feen Coleman.
Hey, good evening. My name is Brian Carlin. I'm not a stranger to public speaking.
I am a stranger to what I'm going to tell you today. Please forgive me. There's going to be tears. But tonight you're looking at two living souls. Two living souls that shouldn't be here. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I served my time in the Air Force. I served in Iraq and countless other places. But to give you a true story of what's going on, I think you need to have a quick backstory. After I left active duty, I had no clue what to do, as many soldiers don't. We're taught one thing: suppress your emotions and get the job done. I did that. I did my job. I came home, I left the military. There weren't things in place to help people like me. I suffer from major depressive disorder, anxiety, hypervigilance, generalized depression, and countless others. The dog I'm here with, his name is Bones. Bones was 7. He was in the shelter, the city shelter. He was supposed to be euthanized in 7 days. Bones has been with me for 4 months. He's changed my life around. Before I met him, I hit absolute rock bottom. I lost my family, I lost my friends, I lost my financial security, and I attempted to take my own life. Because of Finney, who rescued Bones from the shelter, it gave me a new outlook. It gave me someone to hold on to, someone to look at, someone to pass my issues on to him and let him deal with them and tell me I'm okay. What I'm asking, and I know I'm very short on time, is please listen to Mr. Finney. Please give him what he's asking for. And please don't clap, please. It frightens my dog and me.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bones, come.
County Manager, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Dr. Finney Coleman. I'm a faculty member at the University of New Mexico, but I'm also a business owner, and I run a nonprofit organization here in Albuquerque. And I want to come back to the Commission and present on 2 programs that we hope that the Commission will see fit to support. The first is titled Vets for Pets. It's a job training opportunity to bring veterans into this industry. It's a workforce development opportunity that I want to share with you. We also have a program called New Mexico 90, which is designed to try to get our shelters up to a 90% success rate. I work with the Bernalillo County Shelter. We rescue dogs like Bone. Bone was scheduled to be euthanized on a Tuesday. We picked him up on a Saturday, brought him to our shop, had him work with other dogs and other people on our staff. Paws and Stripes eventually picked up Bones, and as you can see, we have a remarkable success story from that. There's much more that I would like to share with the Commission about what we're doing to reduce suicide, what we're doing to address issues related to our foster care system, working with young women who are coming out of the carceral state, working with women who are sheltered and have survived domestic abuse. It's a much longer presentation than I have time for this evening. I hope that you will invite me back to share more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank both of you gentlemen for coming forward this evening, and very interested in hearing your future presentation. I think it sounds like the work you're doing is great work, and happy to help make that happen any way I can. So please reach out. Thank you.
Kelly Opp, followed by Brooke Tafoya, followed by Donald Hume.
Hello. My name is Kelly Opp, and this is my son, William Austin Burnett. He was a graduate of Cibola High School, and he was a Marine. He was an athlete, an artist, a musician. He had his whole life in front of him. He was poisoned to death by fentanyl at the age of 25, and he died by himself in his apartment in Michigan. My son had gone there to get his life back on track and to get away from everything here. He enrolled himself in a rehab 30-day program, completed it. He was working out at the gym. He was socializing with his sobriety-minded friends. He was attending meetings, sometimes multiple, in a day on the weekends. He was actually helping run some of those. All of these, plus he was working a full-time job. All of these things were imperative for his sobriety. The governor of Michigan locked him down for COVID, put him in forced isolation, and took everything away from him that he needed. My son lasted 2 weeks. He called a dealer, and instead of heroin, he got 100% fentanyl. I believe that these programs are so necessary. We have absolutely amazing human beings who, through whatever, a bad choice or maybe even no mistake of their own, are addicted, and they need help. They need facilities that provide compassionate places with integrity and dignity for them to allow these people to heal and get back the lives that they so desperately want. I ask you to consider these thoughts when you look at the distribution of this money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Opp.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brooke Tafoya, and I'm here to speak about the opioid settlement funds. I am both a social worker for 20 years working with young people and currently the Chief Executive Officer of New Day Youth and Family Services, and perhaps even more importantly, a family member of a loved one who has struggled with opioid addiction and help them through recovery, relapse, and recovery. We need to build a system that is able to offer immediate access into detox and rehabilitation for people who have made the decision to enter. Additionally, we have to find a more comprehensive way to support families, because families are the people who will be there for the long haul. Sometimes we believe that as providers, but it's not, it's family. We have to think about our comprehensive model that fully supports the people who surround the people who are receiving treatment. We must make the decision to find program and supports for those who are currently struggling with opioids and meaningful prevention. Sometimes we choose one or the other. We must have both. We must focus on young people because they are our future and they are part of a secondary prevention and harm reduction model. Currently, New Day has a drop-in center. We are providing Narcan on a weekly basis, not single doses, but multiple doses every single week, because this crisis may have started with the overprescribing of opioids, but it is now the crisis of fentanyl, and we must change our strategies in order to meet the current needs. Fentanyl has flooded our streets, and the need is urgent. While I agree that we need a comprehensive plan that is outlined in the current resolution, we must also find ways to have some short-term gains, 2 to 3 items that could happen within the next year, because without those items, we will lose more young people.
Thank you.
Donald Hume, followed by Mary Ingham, followed by Terry Mirabal.
Hello, everybody. My name is Donald Hume. I'm a person in long-term recovery. On Friday, I'll be celebrating 32 years off of opiates. And I just want to come up here and let you know that I am speaking on the opiate settlement money. And we just heard from the great work that the sheriffs are doing, saving people's lives. That's what we need to do. We need to save people's lives. And the best way we can do that is by offering them the services that they need to be able to start to recover. There are a lot of things that we can do that is outside the box, that are amazing, that work for people. We've got people that care deeply for these individuals that are out there right now on the street using fentanyl, and they don't know how to quit. They want help, and they're crying for help. But we don't give them the compassion and the empathy that they deserve. You know, I didn't grow up and say, when I get older, I want to become a heroin addict. That was not my choice. You know, my choice was to be somebody special. And I didn't get that by accident. I got that because people believed in me. People cared about me. We can start to provide peer support across all of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, with people that believe in other people, that believe that if I can recover, you can recover. Because people do recover. Even though it might not seem like it today, we do recover. And we all have the right to recover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hugh.
Mary Ingham, followed by Terry Mirabal, and then we'll move to Zoom speakers.
Good evening, Chair Baca, Commissioners, and other workers. My name is Mary Ingham, and our son was released from the Bernalillo County Detention Center fairly recently, and he's been there a few times. I just wouldn't, it's like some of the things that have been mentioned. Really, we need to take a close look at the way that kind of thing has been handled. He was released a couple of times, just like decided, we didn't even know it until the next morning that he was being released, and quickly went back right into the same problems that he was. There was no planning. We'd supported him while he was in there, and then had no knowledge of that. Also, after this time, he was in there a couple of months before he was offered methadone to sleep. So now he has to attend the methadone clinic every day. But I mean, if you were really addicted to to heroin, he would have needed that before and he didn't go through any withdrawals or anything. And so I think some of the programs and things that are happening, within the jail are harmful to, people. So I just think we need to take a close look at the kinds of ways that those type of things are being handled at the jail. And I'm happy to say he's has a job at this point, has been working for about 6 weeks, and we're just praying and thanking God that he's doing so well, and just pray that this is a time that he's going to make the difference. And I just wanted to take a minute to pray for the country of Israel, Lord, and all the horrific things that are happening there, that God, that you would look over them and help them, and that we as a country would support them, because we know that the Bible says that we'll be blessed if we support the country of Israel, and cursed if we do not. So I just pray that you'll just protect and defend them, Jesus. In your name we pray, amen.
Terry Mirabal. Okay, we'll move on to Zoom participants, starting with Carlos Contreras.
Good evening. Oh,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening, County Commission. I'm speaking this evening in reference to the opioid settlement funds and the possible collaborative effort between the city and the county to come together with a plan that is comprehensive and approaches the issue. You heard from Dr. Feeney Coleman and Mr. Brian Carlin already about an organization by the name of Vets for Pets. We'll be back ideally to present in a larger format about the transformative power and nature of this organization as it comes to life, about the ability for it to create a workforce training situation for veterans and other folks who need our help the most in our community while saving animals. So upon our return, I hope that all will be in attendance and just really soak up the idea of what alternative routes towards rehab and treatment can look like for all of those that need us most in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contreras.
Daniel Gonzalez.
Hello, thank you, County Commissioners. I just wanted to speak on the opioid funds as well. I just wanted to kind of just give you a little snapshot of my story, and I know that everyone's recovery looks different. I am an addict in long-term recovery. I have 25 years, and part of that was I was homeless here in the International District, 25 years old. There wasn't. I don't feel like the focus on preventative measures for recovery is sufficient at this time. And I really think that this money should be focused on that. Now, jail was part of my story, but I did do 6 months in inpatient treatment, and I really feel like treatment should be longer. And research has shown that 3 to 6 months. The longer the treatment, the more chances that you have at long-term recovery. And another thing is that when someone steals something, they get services right away. You get into a bed, you get all the services, you get meals, all of that. Now, an addict who wants help, it takes days, sometimes weeks, and the red tape that they have to go through is just sometimes it can be ridiculous, and then we only have a small window for them to get help. So I'd really like this money to go towards that, and for addicts just to have more access and quicker access to help. So that's it. Thank you all for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir.
Catherine McGill.
To the chair, all the commissioners, and the county manager, I don't think we need to state and restate the opioid crisis issues, but apparently we do need to come to some consensus on efficacious approaches to prioritizing the settlement funds. The responses thus far have been focused almost solely on treatment, and don't get me wrong, we must have treatment. But what I came to discuss today is the desire to look at this particular funding source as an opportunity for us to double down on authentic collaboration and new paradigms. I suggest to you that unless we devise a plan that focuses on prevention, intervention, and treatment, we will do nothing more than perpetuate the status quo. A focused paradigm shift in the way we govern and the way we support the community is needed now more than ever. Yes, we can be expedient and suck large sums of money into large bureaucratic systems and call it a day. But as a member of this community, and I hope you're a partner in building long-term community resiliency, I hope that you will take another look at how we might wholeheartedly support an inclusive process that takes the time to use all of our resources to solve this problem. We cannot tolerate business as usual because life as we know it has changed, and so must we. Cookie cutter, name-only community engagement is not the way forward. We need prevention, intervention, and treatment. We know better, we must do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGill.
Sarah Nazorek.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. I just wanted to talk on the opioid funding as well. Opioids can affect anyone in this community, including our children now. I'm hoping for change to help our community, including our youth who are really at risk. America is known to fix everything with a pill. However, this pill created an epidemic, losing many lives that have no price value on them. We need more harm reduction and prevention planning to help our future too. Trying to constantly educate your child to not try pills when they are exposed from an early age and environments that encourage them to try substances that can help with their emotional and physical pain. It's hard for parents to educate their children these days and do the right thing. There are people and families who have suffered losses, like I said, that can never be replaced. The pharmaceutical companies not only came into the pharmacies, they came into our schools, the communities, the streets, leading to an epidemic that we are now facing with fentanyl. Schools, law enforcement, social worker, the community, everyone needs to come together to have more education for our youth who are our future. I faced the hugest barrier in helping my 16-year-old son, Alex. He took a pill a friend at school gave him. It was pure fentanyl. He almost died. He was in the ICU. I saw him go through a lot. The doctor said he didn't have an addiction, but if he tried anything again, it would kill him. My worst fear came true 2 months later when he was unresponsive from a substance laced with fentanyl, which killed him this time. Our youth's bodies are still developing, and my son's body couldn't handle fentanyl. The opioid crisis has led to this fentanyl crisis. When I was in school, this wasn't a worry for my parents and the community.
Thank you, ma'am.
I pray for...
Thank you. Your time is up. We really appreciate your comments. Thank you.
And that'll conclude public comments. For the record, Debbie Thomas also signed up, but I do not see her online.
Thank you, Julia.
There are two people present that believe they signed up, a Christian Redbird and Viviana Sena. Sorry, thank you for trying.
I'll defer to the chair on if she will allow it, but I don't have additional signups.
Did you have someone you wanted to speak?
There's
Two.
something ready for two.
There were two that didn't get on the list. Go ahead, come on up. State your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon. My name is Viviana Sena. Thank you for allowing me to come up. I thought I had signed in properly. I guess I didn't. I too am here to talk about the opiate distribution of funding. This is my daughter, Grace. 5 years ago, she passed away from a fentanyl poisoning. She was given a pill, which was an oxy. When I received her autopsy, it was nothing but fentanyl. I'm asking that funding be distributed for treatment centers. We need more resources, community support, harm reduction. Too many of our youth are being taken from us too soon. She was 20 years old, had her whole life ahead of her. She was going to school to become a social worker. That's what she wanted to do. She wanted to help people because her life is cut short. I now am taking her place and trying to help others, trying to help the youth, trying to educate parents, trying to lead them to the right path on how to get help to help their child who is struggling. I didn't have that, and we need that. We need the support for our children, for us, because I too felt lost. I didn't know where to turn. So we need resources. We need treatment centers. We need facilities that are going to help not just our youth, but also the parents, the caretakers who are trying to help them to get over this crisis. And I do believe that together we can all make this difference. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Please state your name for that.
My name is Christian Redbird. Good evening, Chair and committee, or members of the committee. My name is Christian Redbird. I'm Cheyenne, Arapaho, Kiowa, and Mexican. I'm in my 4th year of recovery from alcoholism, and I believe I would have transitioned to opioids had I not gone sober. I'm in favor of approving the funding to recovery because I've attended MATS, which is Care Detox Now, in 2018, 2019, multiple times, and I had many different experiences. At first, I wasn't allowed to be admitted because I had a scratch on my leg from falling a few days before. Luckily, I had a place to stay, or else I would have ended up on the street. And thankfully, I did not have a warrant, or I would have been taken to jail after entering the MATS building. I was mocked by the employees the second time for going back to MATS, but I just couldn't get sober with the resources at hand. It took me 5 years to achieve sobriety, and it wasn't until I left the state for treatment that I got sober. Trauma has been in my life since the beginning of conception. I grew up in a violent home. I had to learn how to cope with my emotions, so I began to self-medicate at age 12. It wasn't until I was on my 13th year of alcoholism in year 2017 that I attended counseling for the first time. And then I experienced a traumatic brain injury from drinking in 2018, and I was placed on antidepressants so I wouldn't kill myself. I believe funding should be used based on our community's culture and evidence-based practices and must include compassion and care. Please allow us addicts to have a bit of dignity when walking into treatment centers in New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Redford. Thank you very much all for your heartfelt comments, and please know that we take them all seriously. We'll move on to the next item, which is the opioid settlement funding policy. Madam Clerk, can you please provide a resolution number?
Yes, ma'am. AR 2023-105.
And let's start with a motion to approve. I'm sure that there will be discussion about that,
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the opioid settlement policy.
and I'll second that. And I think we should have some discussion here, and that there are plenty of comments, I'm sure, so we'll just take them first by the sponsor. Commissioner Olivas, you take the lead first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to say thank you, first of all, to all of the families and survivors and community members that have come here to share your stories with us, and this makes this all the more important and all the more meaningful, the work that we're trying to do here tonight, and I believe this is just incredibly important that we get this right. We have one chance here to do right by our community, to do right by those in need, and that is my goal here. And I want to thank my co-sponsor, Madam Chair Baca, for her help and her work on this. This started really before I was elected. You know, this is part of the reason why I ran for office, is the crisis that we see in our streets and streets all across our country. Having a family member myself that is a part of this epidemic. And really we started in, I believe it was March, when this commission started getting some briefings about the opioid settlement funds, the amount of money that was going to be coming into the county. For various reasons. And as some have spoken to, this started with synthetic prescribed opiates, and it has drastically shifted into first heroin and now fentanyl. And so we have to make sure that we are evolving our approach here as well. So after getting these briefings, I knew that this was something we had to take seriously and we had to get this right. So the initial resolution was actually deferred in May after we introduced it, and we've spent the entire summer gathering additional input, talking to providers through our Addiction Treatment Advisory Board, talking to the City of Albuquerque and some of their staff in their Homeless and Health Services Department, talking to some of our city councilors, people working in the administration at the City of Albuquerque. We took this to the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Government Commission. We really wanted this to be as open and inclusive. And I don't want to leave out the fact that we started this with our own behavioral health initiative through Pam Acosta, Chief Perez, and their team, and talking about how we can do this and how we can do this right. So there's been really an extensive effort to engage our providers, our community, and get this right. I'm really proud to say that we have 3 sponsors at the City of Albuquerque. This is a mirror resolution. This will be the second mirror resolution that this commission has run. And we have Councilor Tammy Feeblecorn, Councilor Renee Grout, and Councilor Brooke Bassan that have all signed on to this resolution. It was introduced last Monday, and they'll be considering this at City Council next Monday, just coming up. And I think it's just really amazing, the collaboration that we have going on with the city, the synergy and the unified effort. We have a crisis in our community. We know that. We've heard that. And we have this crisis nationwide. But this is an opportunity to invest in a plan based on collaboration. And one of the additions that we made through extensive feedback is the fact that we've included language in here that talks about not just best practices, but promising practices. Things like we heard about today, Vets for Pets, organizations like that. How do we bring in, how do we bring in the best ideas? How do we look forward and look quickly? Because we know that this crisis is changing. It's changed already since this started in the early 2000s, and it will change again. And we have to be ready for that. We have to design this effort knowing that we have to look at promising practices as the next frontier of how we treat this epidemic. Collaboration is key. We say that all the time up here. We have to be more collaborative. Between the city of Albuquerque and the county of Bernalillo, we should see upwards of $120 million coming in from these opioid settlement monies. We cannot afford to get this wrong, because this is a truly transformational opportunity. This will not bring back the tragic lives that were lost. This will not stop all of the loss that has occurred and is continuing to occur. But we have to get this right, and we have to make this a transformational investment. Repeating our past mistakes is not an option. It has been nearly 10 years since this community supported its first investment in behavioral health through the behavioral health gross receipts tax. We still don't have a plan. We still do not have a strategic plan for that effort. That is unacceptable in my mind, but that's why I'm here. And that's why we're starting with this effort, because we have a chance now from the ground level to do this right, to do this in collaboration with our partners at the city and broaden that out. We include in here engaging our tribal communities, engaging APS and our youth providers, our schools, engaging with our state of New Mexico, who will also be receiving opioid settlement dollars. This has to be a big tent and a broad brush. So far, the opioid spending that we have approved here at this county, resolutions that I have voted for, I will be frank, the spending has been haphazard, it has been unplanned, it has been untargeted. I'm not saying that those funds and those efforts do not make a difference in our community, because I truly believe that they did and they will. But this is an opportunity to kick this to the next level and do this right from the beginning. We are a high poverty, high trauma state, and we have to meet this challenge with a plan here, with an effort that brings together everyone in our community to look at how we address prevention, intervention, treatment. We have to have the three pillars, and we have to acknowledge the importance of the prevention piece, because we know that without that, we cannot jail our way out of this crisis. We cannot build enough treatment centers to get out of this crisis if we don't start with prevention, if we don't start with our youth, with their future. So I think this resolution does the very best that we can do right now to put together a comprehensive process for formulating a plan, and doing so quite rapidly. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what this allows us to do in collaboration with our partners at the city. How do we work together, and how do we do this differently and do this right, so that we can support our community, support those that are most vulnerable, that are suffering, and that need our help. And with that, I just want to really implore my colleagues up here, this is our opportunity. This is our chance to do this right. This is our chance to show why we came here, to show if we're going to be problem solvers or if we are going to be obstructionists. We have worked tirelessly to bring on board partners at the city, and this is our opportunity to move forward with that partnership hand in hand and do something good for our community. With that, I do want to make one amendment to this resolution. There was a clerical error, so I would like to make a motion to correct the record, striking from section 1 at the recommendation of the county manager. The end of section 1, this clause was added. We're not really quite sure how this got into this, but this shouldn't have been in there. This is a mirror resolution with the city of Albuquerque, so it's really important that we share language and that we show that we are a collaborative partner, that we're ready to step up and do this together.
I'll second that motion.
And for clarification on the motion, I have the resolution before me, so it's section 1. What line of the?
Section 1, line 7, strike at the recommendation of the county manager.
Okay. So that has been moved and seconded. Let's start with actually, County Manager, do you have a comment on that? Discussion on the amendment right now?
Yes, Madam Chair, excuse me, Commissioner Olivas. So first of all, that was a clerical error. Isn't that correct, Julianne? So, but first of all, I just want to appreciate the fact that the City Council, they introduced, excuse me, a counterpart resolution, which I think was wonderful. And I also want to thank the city for appropriating $1.5 million to the county because they recognize that we have a crisis at the MDC. And I also, Commissioner Olivas, I appreciate you taking the lead on this because everything that everybody said, you are spot on. Everybody, so I think getting that collaboration from the community and getting that collaboration from the experts, the people with lived experiences, the folks from our Addiction Treatment Advisory Board, absolutely, absolutely. But what I'm asking for is a small percentage of that money to be able to let me, as the county manager, as the CEO of the county, to make some recommendations on how we can spend some of this money. And of course, I, as a county manager, I mean, my checkbook is not open. I have limits. And so if I need to go to the commission and ask for anything over my signature authority, of course, it's going to go, my signature authority is going to have to be acknowledged, and I need to go in front of the commission to ask for certain things. So my signature authority is $300,000. And so what I'm saying is I'm pleading that we have immediate needs at the jail. Our UNMH is our partner, as everybody knows. They've been doing some great work, but they're asking for some immediate needs. We met with them. They're asking we need to enhance our Suboxone services. We need to development of post-discharge system of care, the development of community detox resources for opioid patients. I mean, those are critical needs that I do applaud, and I think it's so important, the partnership with the city. I can't say that enough. They're great partners, but we also are not like the city. We have a jail, we have a youth detention center, and we have the CARES campus. The city doesn't. So we have some unique needs that have to be fulfilled immediately to address this crisis. And I think we have some really good people that we seek the advice from. We seek the advice from, members from the ATAB, our Addiction Treatment Advisory Board, from people with lived experience, so from staff that are very capable and know what they're doing. So all I'm asking for is just a friendly amendment to this resolution. And just the last part where it says, says, any appropriations of opioid settlement monies shall be deferred until the following processes have been successfully implemented unless such appropriations are otherwise directed by the Board of County Commissioners. And then it was period. But what I'm respectfully asking for is an addition that says, or recommended by the county manager in accordance with AR 2023-77, and that basically outlines my signature authority. So I don't have a blank checkbook. Of course, I'm going to go to my bosses, the commission, to ask for approval of $300,000 and over to address the immediate needs of the opioid crisis. I just need some freedom, trust, flexibility to be able to act immediately on this crisis in our community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam County Manager. Respectfully, thank you for your friendly amendment. I am not going to ask the commission to incorporate that at this time. If another commissioner wants to do that. That's their prerogative. I would stay on the original amendment, but I would comment on your request that this county is sitting on $500 million in reserves, nearly. Massive reserves, very large reserves. And depending on, the day of the week and what source you get this from, we have in the neighborhood of $30 million of behavioral health reserve available. And some of that has been committed to future projects, that sort of thing. I know that will be the argument that some of our finance folks will make. But if this is truly an emergency at the jail, if these are things that we have to do, and I respect the input of our partners at UNM and the providers at that facility, that if this is something that they say they need, then we should seriously consider that. From that $500 million plus or minus that we have sitting there. And I realize, again, our finance staff will say some of that is required by the state to sit in reserves. We have to have it. We can't touch it. I get that. There's still a massive amount of money available. If this county has a true crisis, we have every ability, and you as the county manager, through your signature authority and through this commission, has every ability to make those necessary investments and do so in a quite rapid fashion. And I'm happy to consider those requests at such time which they come forward in a formal fashion. But I do believe that this opioid money, the purpose of this money needs to go through an effective planning process as outlined in this resolution. And we cannot begin to make this look like Swiss cheese and start carving out little pieces of it, which we already have. We can't afford to continue that until we have a plan, until we have a coordinated effort with the city on what we are going to do. So I would just remind the commission that we're still on my original amendment to strike that language from the section 1, line 7.
Vice Chair Barbola.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I want to address this. It's hard for me to hear this request. I think right now our biggest budget items go already to MDC. One of our biggest contracts is the University of Hospital. That funding, that procurement that our very capable procurement officers created, included community engagement, included all the things that our partners put into it, and it was not held to compliance. It was not held to compliance with the previous, and now we thankfully have MDC that is closed that we can hold to compliance, but that funding is there. It has been there, and it is our responsibility. UNM receives all the mill levy dollars without any guidance or regulations from us. We are already overspending at MDC. We have committed before my time in commission, and many of our providers actively engaged to make medical assistant treatments like Suboxone available in the jails. That is our commitment previous to my time being here, and we should be budgeting for that correctly. We've already made that commitment. It should be budgeted for. It shouldn't be an emergency. When we're in a place, yes, we do. We have a youth detention center that is currently severely understaffed, in which people are being held, youth, minors that have not, this is pre-disposition. They have not been considered guilty yet, and they're being held on lockdown for multiple hours, just slim enough to not be considered solitary confinement, but they are being held in lockdown without treatment, without access to books, because we don't have the capacity. We have not fulfilled our commitment to make sure that that capacity is there. We have a CARES campus that when I came on, it took me a year to get the data. We were turning over 105 people away a month. People that were coming, asking for our help. The people that you see on the streets today on the art, when they felt like it and they were finally ready to ask for help, we were turning them away. Because of what? She said it. She had a cut in her leg. And because she had a cut in her leg from a fall, we were turning them away. I've heard people, they were turned away for picking their face. Guess what? It's a symptom of using meth to pick your face. Yet our CARES campus, one of the only facilities left in the state from the time that Governor Martinez gutted our system, our county taxpayers at a 70% margin said we will pull from our own pocket so that the county can receive this funding to make sure that we are going to serve, we believe in alternatives to incarceration for people that are suffering from mental health or behavioral health needs. That was our duty, that was passed in that legislation, and that is what we've been receiving taxpayer dollars for, yet still turning away 105 people. Again, seriously understaffed at our CARES campus. I could go on about this, but when we are saying this money that's coming from opioids, these were the voices you heard. These are the people impacted, and there are immediate needs, and these are going to be long-term needs into the future. You hear about ACEs, advanced or adverse childhood experience. Guess what? Every single one of the kids, of the family members, of the brothers, the sisters that are in that family that is suffering through the substance use disorder, they all have ACEs. They're all going to be in your community. They're all going to be in your workforce. If we, MDC, for this money to go to MDC, we have heard from everybody that prevention, intervention, and treatment is the only way, with care and compassion. If we don't have the medical services to provide and we need to turn away someone, then we better get a referral. And guess what? We've seen some of that thanks to the pressure, thanks to people's comments, thanks to the news articles. We've finally seen some changes at the CARES campus. And guess what the first thing I heard when after 6 months, when after 7 years, we've been turning people away for whatever reason, because they poked their face, because they peed on the side of the building, because they had a scratch on their leg. We're turning them away, and yet here we are expecting that not to turn around into what it means, turning people back to their addiction, back to stealing ladders and TVs to fuel their addiction. So until we start with the things we've heard tonight, we have not invested in prevention. We have not invested in intervention. I saw when I came on, I started talking to one of the Parks and Recs folks about, I would love for community centers to be expanded. It's been proven nationwide that we can have if we had community centers and schools open Friday evenings and weekends, students would be going there because they want things to do. They want safe places to be. We have tons of community centers that we close and we only open from 8 to 5 when they're in school. I mean, we have so many ways in front of us. This opioid money, over $147 million when it's the county and city combined, can make an impact, can build the infrastructure we need, can build the prevention, intervention needs. That means addressing things ahead of time. That means being creative in our solutions, listening to the people who have gone through it. Because guess what? These people don't like to share their stories. They feel like they have to because they don't want to see another parent, another friend suffering the way they are. So it is re-traumatizing to come out here and put this in front of you, and we're going to say that MDC is the answer. I just can't. I can't, and I'm disappointed that that's even a suggestion. So thank you.
Thank
Madam
you, Vice
Chair.
Chair.
It's not just for the MDC.
Thank you. Commissioner Benson, you had a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've got to do both. I love the solution that Commissioner Olivas has brought forth, but we also currently have major problems. And yeah, MDC, I mean, they're dying. We've got people dying constantly there. We've had to bring in UNMH because of fentanyl, because of heroin. I don't know why. Yeah, that's part of the reason this system is so overtaxed, because of this issue, which is why New Mexico got so much funding compared to any other state in the country. All of our institutions are being taxed. So, and yeah, we have more to do. And in hindsight, we could have done it better. And that's easy to say in hindsight, but it's not like we're not trying. And I don't think we should just give it carte blanche to county manager, but to say, hey, no, county can't make any decisions with this fund. We're going to create another big bureaucratic organization, which, who said that? Catherine McGill? That's not the solution. We do need a long-term strategy for prevention, absolutely. That's why I love the idea, and a lot of effort's been coming forward. But to attack the county and the county employees, I know this is an emotional topic. I lost my stepbrother to heroin, so I get that, but I think everybody's got to come to the table. And to say that only some city councilors and county commissioners can make the decision on how this money is spent, I think is misguided. Is when we've got theft happening in the streets right now because of this epidemic. It's translating into every area of life. We have murders happening, we have theft happening, we have homelessness happening. And yeah, CARES campus does take care of these folks, and so does MDC, and so does UNMH. But if we gave all the money just straight to them, yeah, it wouldn't take care of the problem. It'd just be a giant bandage on top of the bleeding. It wouldn't stop the bleeding. So we've got to come with a better idea. But I think to prevent us from being able to use this money now, waiting for the long-term strategy, I think it has to be both. And I think it'd be a mistake not to do both. So I would like to make the amendment.
Well, we're on the First Amendment first. If you could hold that.
Okay.
And we'll.
Thank you.
Bring up another option for another amendment.
Thank you.
I did want to
Madam
make
Chair.
one quick statement first, Commissioner Quesada, that I do think that we are multitasking. We are doing all of the above with our behavioral health initiative, with the substantial amount of funding that we have earmarked for the MDC, as well as for the new care provider with UNMH. I think we are doing a very good job, and then in no way is this resolution intended to point fingers or point blame at anybody for doing anything wrong. The idea of this resolution is this is a huge amount of money. It's not going to be provided to us at a one-time, one lump sum. Obviously, this is a settlement agreement, so it's going to be coming in over time. So I want to ask the county attorney, there's been a couple of numbers bandied about, but we have an estimate for what that joint funding for the opioid settlement. The cities actually is, the local government based on population gets more and the state gets some, the local entities get more as we know, but can you give me that? It's an estimate, we know, because it's a complicated settlement. So we're talking about the same number for the public's perspective.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners and County Manager. Yes, Mr. Luis Robles, who is our attorney directly on it, and I think he's done an excellent job, and in fact actually tried the Walgreens case. He sent us a very updated spreadsheet, and they are estimates, but it would show a total amount of payments to Bernalillo County only. Doesn't include the city amounts, but he did prepare a spreadsheet with both amounts for the ABCGC. So we have that too, but we can look, but I have this now, and it would be $65 million over a period of time from 2022 paid out through 2038.
And that's for the county only.
That's
65.
Bernalillo County only.
And then the city's component, the city's estimate.
It would be a percentage in addition to that, because we are about 18% of the local government's total, when you divide it up between the state and locals, and then between the locals. So the bigger percentage is Albuquerque, second biggest percentage is Bernalillo County.
So the estimate for the total, since that's what we're trying to do here, is really make an impactful effort to address this opioid crisis. And joining the two, city and county, is the estimate the 120?
Yeah, I think
147 was the number that Luis Robles presented at the ABCG. 147 million.
147 million we're talking about with the city and the county receiving this settlement money. And I think that that's very important to say to the public, because it's a large amount. It as Commissioner Oliva said, it can do nothing to bring back our loved ones, but what it can be is a new day in addressing this horrible, horrific crisis that we have on our hands. And so the idea of this resolution, which I really do want to respect our council partners moving their bill forward simultaneously, is to take a breath, do this planning effort, engage the community. As we heard Ms. McGill say, this is a new paradigm. We have been dealing with this and we can't just jail ourselves out of it. And I am not saying that Bernalillo County is doing that. We are doing an excellent job under the leadership of County Manager and Warden Jones in addressing some of these issues that we have, bringing UNMH in. I mean, we have been putting a lot of resources from other sources within our budget, and that's good. This is an opportunity because it's just one time. It's not going to be recurring. It's a big amount, but it's one time. So let's take a good, hard look at it. Let's engage our communities. Let's engage the communities that are impacted even greater by this epidemic and see what they have to say. I cannot agree more that we need those three pillars of prevention being one that we have not quite addressed well enough as a Commissioner or Vice Chair Barboa has indicated. Prevention, treatment, and intervention. And that's so important. So in no way should this be anyone working against each other. And County Manager, all due respect, you will be at the table on this. There is, the opportunity if we see something going on that we'll look for that money for those needs that you see as a crisis. But we do need to keep our eye on the ball that this is one-time money over a long period of time, and it gives us the opportunity to do thoughtful planning for an impactful solution. So Commissioner Quesada had a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Prevention and intervention is what I did. I was a gang prevention counselor for many, many years. So no one believes in it more than I. And when I was doing it, it was drugs and gangs and violence and crime and all of it. It just wasn't focused on one thing. So I was blessed to be successful at that. And I was blessed to gain the knowledge of how effective that is. And one of the things that I did as soon as I got here as a commissioner, after my 4 years as a school board member for Albuquerque Public Schools, where I gained a lot of other knowledge when it came to the school systems and when it came to prevention and intervention. One of my first priorities was school-based health centers. The data and the success rates of that being prevention and intervention at a very young age was tremendous to see. I believe that we also should have dipped into the permanent fund, not only for early childhood education, but they should have did a double dip for school-based health centers and providing wraparound services. This is not the responsibility of Albuquerque Public Schools. This is the responsibility of this community as a whole. I do take offense that we have not worked diligently for the 8 years that I've been here on behavioral health and that we've dropped the ball somehow. We had to rebuild a behavioral health system that was destroyed by a prior administration in Santa Fe. This is something that was very hard and difficult to do. And to be judged on that is very disheartening, thinking that somebody can come in a first year and change it and make it better. Look, we know that it's always going to be broken. Everybody in this room knows that it's always somehow going to be broken. But that doesn't matter. We try and we keep fighting, and we'll continue to keep fighting for families. When my nephew decided that he was an addict and he needed help, this is where I found where it's broken, is during the criteria, trying to get into a place that you're asking for help. When I drove him over there and we went and I said, my nephew's ready to change his life. For the first time in his life, he told me, I'm an addict and I'm messing up my life. He had never said that to me before. I took him straight there. When we got there, the lady in the front goes, have you been using? And he goes, no, ma'am. I was in jail for 3 months and my uncle got me out because I'm ready to change my life. They told him, well, we can't help you unless you've been using. So I want to tell you all something. I took him on the street so he could start using, so I could get him into that facility, and I haven't seen him since. So there's things that are broken that are not just our fault, but it's in the policy and the criteria that we have to give treatment to people. We don't even meet them halfway. When we were doing the tiny home village, when I looked at the criteria for the tiny home village and said, you have to be sober for 3 months, when I said that at that last meeting where I said, I don't qualify to go to the tiny home village, I'm a county commissioner. How do I not qualify to go to the tiny home village, right? Those things need to be looked at. Not how many facilities that we build, but how we actually run the facilities. So I'm going to go back to my school-based health center. I don't have it. I finally got the funding for 2 mobile units. I'm in my last year coming up this year as a county commissioner, and I do not have my mobile units. The bureaucracy, as you add more bureaucracy to what we do, I'm just going to let you know, the longer it's going to take for us to do stuff. And if we continue to keep adding more and more bureaucracy, great ideas become absolutely nothing. They become obsolete. We find ourselves at the beginning again. You got to start working. You got to start pushing. I think what the county manager said earlier about emergency fund is that she's not trying to spend the funding. She's saying that she needs the ability in case of a crisis, whether it's at the max or it's at the jail or it's at a youth detention facility. If something needs to be done right away, we need that right away because we cannot afford to send more things through the bureaucracy. And my final comment is, I love partnering with the city. I've done very good partnering with Councilor Pena in my district to get a lot of things done. My question is, and I'm going to say something about this resolution. I was never informed about this resolution. I never got a meeting. Nobody went to my staff and said, hey, we want to talk to Commissioner Quesada about our resolution doing and what we want to do with the behavioral health money. And I'll be honest with you, they don't need to meet with me because they don't need my vote. They don't care about my vote, and that's okay. So I don't know what's in this. I know we need to move forward. I know I'm not going to stop it from going forward because we don't have time for more bureaucracy. We don't have time for me to go back for 2 weeks and see what's in this and learn about it. Because they don't want me to know, and that's okay. But what I want to know is the city going to put the equal amount of money as we move forward? Or is it we allocate all our money in the county and then we just wait to see what the city puts in? Because from my experience from the 7 years I've been here, it's not equal, it's not equitable, and that's the question I'd like to hear tonight about the mayor resolution at the city of Albuquerque. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Barbeau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, obviously there hasn't been a reading of this by County Commissioner Quesada because the resolution clearly states that we are both entities. No one, neither the city nor the county should be counting on this funds because it is off the backs of dead people and people that are struggling to keep their families alive without any resources. Because of exactly what you said. I got on and my first year, school-based health mobile clinics, yes, support, a unanimous decision by this commission. And 7 years later, we cannot see 2 mobile units? How much can it take to put 2 mobile units? The funding's been there, as Commissioner Quesada mentioned. And maybe that would have been a preventive measure that would have caught one of our young people. If they had access in their home environments with mobile at their schools where a teacher or a loved one or someone that cares about them could have pointed them there. Maybe that would have not meant that somebody got past that pill. I mean, seriously, this is what we're dealing with. So no, that nobody should be counting on this money, not the city or the county. This money needs to be decided on. We have the providers in the room. We've heard today. We've heard the families, we've heard the providers, we've heard the people impacted. That's what it takes to put together a plan. Make sure we're not enforcing anti-racism, that we're enforcing anti-racism. Make sure that our communities are getting providing and treatment. The resolution includes housing, because we know that you can't stay in recovery if you don't have a roof over your head. So yes, we have the expertise in our city, in our providers, in our universities, and we have to put it quickly to use to make a quick plan to get these dollars. But that they're going to be able to get swept up in the next emergency, these aren't your emergency fund services. These are not meant for that. We have reserves for that. We have a commitment to serve MDC, our youth detention facility, and we give a lot of money right now, most of our budget to that, and our law enforcement. So these monies are not to be accounted for other than in repairing, the healing, and the prevention efforts needed to cause by this damage, suffering, and death that pharmaceutical the 147 million, admittedly by Attorney Luis Robles, told us this was not the money that would ever, we can't even imagine the amount of money it would take to actually repair the damage, death, and suffering that has been done. This is a settlement and negotiations where hundreds of lawyers came together. I'm sure it cost lots of money to get all those lawyers together to fight and finally decide on a number that felt like it was doable to repair for the lives lost, for the people on the streets that are getting turned away. No, this 147 million is not going to solve our problem. But if we don't do right by creating the infrastructure, planning ahead, facing the immediate needs and the long-term consequences that this pharmaceutical strategic attack on our communities, they came 3 of the top 5 locations that over-distributed in the pharmaceutical companies are here in New Mexico. 1 in Taos, 1 in Espanola, and a Walgreens here on Central in Albuquerque. 3 of the top 5 in the whole entire country were over-distributed. Those people preyed on our vulnerable communities that have a history of multi-generational trauma, have a history of multi-generational opioid use. This is not new. We're a border region. We're close to the border. We're in between large cities. We are one of the most poor states in the nation. So yes, those monies are not meant to be for anything but serving to heal, to prevent, to intervene, and to treat the long-term and immediate impacts of that opioid specific targeting on our communities.
Thank you. Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really can't follow that with much, but I want to say, this is the oldest excuse in the book right now. This thing about the Martinez administration, they dismantled everything and it's not our fault because it was broken. That might be the case. But you know what? It's our job to fix it. That's why I'm here. That's why I ran for this office, because there's a problem and I want to help fix it. I don't want to point fingers. I don't want to make excuses. And I actually read what's put in front of me, by the way. But this doom and gloom that we heard here, that this will always be broken. We will always be broken. I don't buy into that. I saw people that came here today that this might have been one of the hardest things they did in recent memory, to come here and re-traumatize themselves. But they did it to show us that this is worth fighting for. This is worth making an investment. This is worth leadership. That's what this is about. This is not about pointing fingers. This is about moving forward and doing it right and doing it differently. So, Madam Chair, with that, I would like to call the question on the original amendment.
Question is called on the original amendment. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand, please.
Yes.
Madam Chair, can you clarify what we're voting on for the original amendment?
The original, Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is to strike from Section 1, Line 7, at the recommendation of the county manager. So it strikes at the recommendation of the county manager.
Thank you.
Aye. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
That passes 4-1. Now we're on to the actual resolution. Any other comments?
Yes, I would
Yes.
like to add the Second Amendment, Madam Chair.
So I will need that to be articulated because I didn't quite get what that amendment was proposed.
The amendment to give the county manager freedom so that the county can still take care of these needs because they're coming to us. So the the amendment that the county manager asked for. Would like to add that.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to strongly oppose this amendment. As I articulated, I believe that we have significant resources already available to the county manager through the Behavioral Health Fund and the General Fund and several other sources. I would also say that this overall resolution does not preclude the jail from being eligible or any of those other facilities from being eligible as part of a plan that is drafted in collaboration with the city, providers, community, affected families. Those facilities will still be eligible. They may still be part of this plan. I don't know what the plan is right now. That's the whole purpose of this, to create a plan, to do this from step 1 and not jump into step 9 and go back and do step 1 10 years later. That's the whole point of this. And lastly, I want to say that this does spell out in the end here a pretty aggressive timeline where we should be receiving an update within 2 months and another progress report at 6 months, with this being completed no more than 12 months out, a year. It's more than I would like, but if we're going to do this right, we've got to start with that, because if we wait for the plan, guess what? It's been 8 years and counting on the behavioral health initiative, and we still don't have one. And I'm not saying that that hasn't been effective, that there haven't been good programs, that there aren't things there that are helping people. But I think it's time to do this differently. It's time to try something different. And that's why I'm urging my colleagues to say no to this proposed amendment.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Benson.
Commissioner Olivas, I love your the entire motion. I just think that it's short-sighted to cut the county off at the heels. We are the player for this. We run the county jail. We run CARES, youth detention. We're the go-to. We receive the majority of funds because we're the ones taking care of these issues. So I'm in favor of this 100%. I don't think we should be hamstringing the county government itself to do the job that we've hired her to do. And yeah, we do have funds, but what about the individuals that are suffering now from opioids? We're just going to keep waiting until this new committee that we're now going to create comes up with a new plan. And I think we do need to try something different. So I applaud this, but you're cutting us off. You're cutting our hamstrings so that we can't take care of our own constituents. These are our constituents. We need this authority to do this. And just as a comment, calling us the poorest state, it's not true. We're one of the wealthiest states in the nation. We've got a cushion of $4.4 billion sitting in our state government. Per capita, there's no other state that has this much money. So I'm just making that case.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner, County Manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Olivas, I too echo what Commissioner Benson said. I love this resolution. I love the collaboration with the city. I do. I truly do, Commissioner. I think it's, well thought of. I think it's real important to hear from the community and the experts, and I applaud you all for, coming and sharing your stories. And I know that it was really hard for you, and I respect that. I'm not asking for the whole amount. I'm asking just to be able to work with my staff, and I think they have made a huge difference. People have been here sharing their stories, their success stories on how, the CARES campus or MATS at the time changed their lives. So we have done some good. We haven't been perfect. By all means, we haven't. But I just want, just for the record, and I know the way that things are going to go, and I understand, and I'll respect that, and we'll keep going. We'll do our very, very best. But all I want to say, Commissioner Olivas, is I do think that this is a great resolution. I really applaud the spirit of cooperation, especially with our partners from the city and the community and the experts. But all I was asking for was the opportunity to work with my staff to address the immediate needs that we have. Thank you.
Vice Chair Barboa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure I'm clear that if there had been, like I started to mention, I didn't finish that. I talked to some of the Parks and Recs folks when I first got on commission at Tom Tenorio Park, and they're showing me the new renovations. And I said, I think that our community centers could be doing more. And they said, yeah, we've had that in our strategic plan for 7 years. We had options of building community centers as life centers. And they went to the Behavioral Health Initiative hoping to get some of that for it, and they didn't get it. Because guess what? When we don't bring the solutions to the table, prevention and intervention get set aside. We spend a lot on clinical social work. We need those people. We need clinical social workers. We need the medical professionals. We need all that. But we can't do without the prevention intervention, because guess what? Those people aren't talking to the clinical social workers until they first came in through a peer, until they first came in through someone that they went to an AA meeting. We need to be addressing this up front. And last, I just want to say, I was a case manager for several years. I worked as a case manager for Youth in Transition, the Casa Hermosa, which is a transitional living program for youth facing homelessness or aging out of foster care. I then worked as a case manager for several years for community corrections for adjudicated youth. And I said then, like, those people, the employees, they are working hard every day. I just want to make sure that message is heard clear from me, that all of you staff that are going to work every day dealing with some of the toughest issues our whole city, county, state are facing. I know I was you, I am you. I've been there putting all my hopes, spending my nights sleepless because I know that person, I could have done one more thing for them, or they just needed this one more thing. I know that our employees, our staff are fighting every day for their lives. They get into this work because they care. They don't get into this work because it comes with great rewards. They get into this work because the rewards are that they're able to make a difference in somebody's life. And so I want to say loud and clear that I think our employees work hard every single day. And like Commissioner Olivas says, it takes leadership to make a culture that is actually allowing the folks that are there, that care, that want to do good, and support that empathetic, caring approach that brings people into our facilities, that doesn't turn them away, that doesn't require people to, I'll stop. But we act like as if a penal approach is the only way to go. And that has had its opportunity. That has been our approach for over 7 years. And now we need the opportunity to take a holistic approach that includes prevention, intervention, and treatment, led by peers, led by access to, that have entry points for people to come into our facilities and not get turned away.
Thank you. And I have a comment. Commissioner Benson, Commissioner Casala, I understand what you're saying, but I respectfully want to say that this resolution in no way is creating a new bureaucracy or new layers. Rather, it really is addressing some of the words we've heard from our community, that we have to look at a new strategy to deal with the crisis that we have before us. It is a new paradigm that is needed, and this is a partnership with the city. Our county attorney tells me, so we have an estimated 65 million at the county and an estimated 80 million or so at the city. So we need our city partners. And with those partners and with that partnership, it's going to be over all the way through 2038. I mean, we'll be getting these these settlement agreements are working their way through. So we're not delaying anything. Rather, we're being very thoughtful with this resolution to reach out to our community to come up with these prevention ideas that maybe we haven't thought of up here before, and that we reach out to the communities that are truly being impacted by this horrific crisis. So I will not support that amendment, because I do think this is not hamstringing our county manager. We support our county manager 100% in what she's been doing at the jail, doing with UNMH. I think this is new money because of this horrific, situation we find ourselves in as a country. And as Vice Chair Barboa talked about, our attorney fought for us all of these years and really worked out these great settlements that have been very difficult. We've heard from him personally. And this is in reaction to that, in recognition of that, and respect of that effort to move this distinct, money for this distinct purpose. And so this plan, I actually think is actually a fast track if you think about the enormity of the money of the problem. So I won't support respectfully your amendment. So I'd like to call for a vote on the amendment on the floor. All those in favor of Commissioner Benson's amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
And that fails on a 2-3 vote. So Commissioner Olivas, to close, please.
I just want to thank I want to appreciate the impassioned debate, spirited debate that we've had here. This is an issue worth talking about. This is an issue worth the time that we've spent tonight and the thought that we've put into this and the conversations that we've had and the tough moments that we've felt, because this is about lives. This is about changing lives, saving lives, and remembering those who are lost and moving forward with a purpose, moving forward, doing better. And I want to say, I've had some perhaps harsh words for our behavioral health initiative, and to say, dovetailing on what Commissioner Barboa said, this isn't about the people doing this work. There's a lot of good, meaning people that work for the county, that work for the city, that work for the state, that are doing the right thing every day, that are going to work and trying to change lives. But this is about us. This is about the leadership, or maybe the lack thereof that there has been. And I hope that this is an effort to address that, to say that we've got to do better for those people that are going in every day and trying to do their best to help people in need, that are doing their best to try and provide the services and the care and the compassion that the most vulnerable in our community deserve. We need to support them, and we need to support them with leadership. We have to have a plan. We have to do this in a way that's thoughtful, because at the end of the day, that is what supports those frontline workers, is the leadership from the top, doing the right thing, having a plan, and holding themselves and others accountable for that plan. I think this is an amazing opportunity, and I want to thank everyone here, and I urge your support.
All those in favor of the resolution as amended, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Thank you all for the important debate. I appreciate that. And thank you all for coming and for your comments.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I say something on behalf of the county manager?
Yes.
County Manager Julie Morgus walked out not because of what was going on here, but today is her husband's birthday, and she was supposed to be at dinner a while back, so she just wanted people to know that she wasn't being disrespectful, but she too has a passion and has a family, and she needed to go take care of that. So she just wanted, for the record, for everybody to know that she wasn't just walking out.
Oh, thank
She
you,
had a
Ms.
valid
Reagan.
reason.
Really appreciate that. In no way did I take it that way. I apologize. I didn't mention that. She cleared that with all of us too. So obviously, thank you so much for mentioning that. And now we move on to approval of the minutes. I move approval of September 26, 2023 administrative meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
And that passes. Item 8, approval of the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, can you please provide a resolution number for item 8F?
FR 2023-106.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The consent agenda has been published and made available to the public. Therefore, I move to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 9, adoption of ordinance amendment to the county code, technical services. Brian Lopez to present. Thank you, Brian.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, good evening. I'm Brian Lopez. I'm the Technical Services Director. I'd like to present our item to introduce amendments to Chapter 38, Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance. Since 1992, the county has participated in the National Flood Insurance Program, Community Rating System, CRS. a voluntary program that recognizes and encourages community floodplain management activities to exceed minimum standards. And currently, the county is rated at a Class 8 by CRS. And this has provided county residents a 10% discount on their flood insurance premiums. The CRS program has recently updated its requirements to include a 1-foot freeboard, which is the height defined above flood level, for all residential, non-residential buildings and manufactured housing. In addition, the 1 foot of freeboard is now also required for all attendant utilities, including ductwork. So basically what it's saying is any penetrations that are going into a foundation now need to be also located at that 1 foot above the flood elevation. Aligning the county flood damage prevention ordinance with the CRS program requirements will ensure that the county maintains its Class 8 status and provide the county with an opportunity to improve to a Class 7 or higher status in the future. The proposed language within this ordinance is to add the additional statements that include that state 1 foot of freeboard is required for the lowest floor and also required for the attendant utilities, including the ductwork, like I mentioned previously. For this item, we're requesting approval to introduce and approve for publication amendments to Chapter 38, Article 2, Flood Damage Prevention. And should the ordinance be approved for publication, the draft will be posted for the requisite 30 days, and then we will return for final adoption at a later commission meeting. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Before we go to questions, I would move introduction and approval for publication to these amendments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions for Mr. Lopez? Commissioners Casar.
Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Lopez. I have the South Valley. That is the floodplain, seems like. But my question is just for my constituents. This is all for new buildings, right? So when people go into this area and build new buildings, or is this for existing buildings already that are sitting in the floodplain? Because a lot of those residents that I have in my district, well, they don't have the resources to lift their building. I just want you to clarify who this is going to affect and how is it going to affect people.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Quesada, that's a great question. You're correct. This is for new development. We wouldn't retroactively require people to go adjust the elevation of their homes. But they would benefit from this going forward because the way the system is operated, it looks at it as a whole, and it's a gigantic checklist that we kind of go through, and it talks about making sure that we're advertising that there is opportunities for the reduction in the insurance rates through the CRS program. Every time a building permit comes in, we mark if it is within a floodplain, and then we have to follow up and have documentation to show that we did verify that we specified the finished floor elevation is at that 1 foot minimum and so on. And so even though the existing homes, they would still benefit from this as we go forward, just as we increase that criteria that shows what the county is doing to improve our floodplain management.
Thank you for your hard work on this, Mr. Lopez. Appreciate your briefings. Any other questions? And I call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Thank you. Item B, Technical Services, Manager Dan McGregor.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Dan McGregor with Natural Resource Services. Remaining on the agenda this evening is the request for introduction and publication of amendments to the subdivision ordinance. We had previously pushed these forward. We had to make a last moment deferral. In interest of time, I won't go through the agenda summary. It's rather lengthy. This primarily is focused to address comments that we had received from the Office of the State Engineer and to make sure that our disclosure statements are comporting with the state requirements for such. With that, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Before questions, I move approval to introduce and approval of publication for the proposed amendments.
Second.
All those, I'm sorry, any questions? I apologize. Getting late. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we move on to item 10, Let's see, adoption of resolutions, economic development, Marcos Gonzalez, industrial revenue bond. Madam Clerk, as he's walking up, can you please provide a resolution number?
Yes, ma'am. AR 2023-107.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. I'm Marcos Gonzalez with Economic Development Department. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of the inducement resolution authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of the applicant, Project Sunflower. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to make something clear and kind of make a little comment on all of these IRBs because we heard this in public comment, and I've struggled with this myself as we look at these resolutions. I really think that the way that we advertise this is, it's just not easy to understand, and I'm still learning as I'm going through this. But what I asked a question of you and your staff in an email earlier last week, and I was provided an answer that the abatement that we're actually doing here will exempt roughly $6.87 million in real property taxes over 30 years, so about $229,000 annually, which is very different than the top line number that we're presented with of 19 million. And so I think that we need to come up with a little better way to present these and allow the public to understand what we're talking about here and what these mean. My understanding is, this $19 million figure is actually discussing the amount of property or improvements to the property that are being exempted, because when we assess a property to determine its value and then assess tax to that, we assess that property based on improvements to the property. A piece of vacant land is worth less than a property with $1 billion factory on it, let's say, right? So obviously you're going to pay more taxes on the factory property than the land property. And so what we're talking about is actually exempting a portion of those improvements that the developer or the employer in this case is making in exchange for them constructing this facility using, in most cases, local construction workers and employing local artisans to do this work. So I think it's really important that we communicate that message. And obviously, I think every one of these projects needs to be considered individually and vetted. And that's why we do this inducement resolution. And then down the line, we have the actual final say on it. And the other piece that I just want to mention, since I have the floor here, is that I think it's really important that we think about housing as well, because one of the concerns that I have as we look at the jobs that are being created, we're using a figure that is an average. So an average salary of the new employees is $49,000. But when you dive in there, there's, a couple of engineers and a couple of, upper level managers that are in the, six-figure range. And the majority of the jobs created are actually in the $30,000 range. I think they were $35,000, $36,000. And so, we know just based on the challenges that we're seeing in housing and, cost of living in our region and everywhere around the country, we're not unique, unfortunately, that's not a lot of money, and that's not going to get you very far in Albuquerque to rent an apartment or buy, ideally build some equity, buy a home and, grow the local economy in that way. So I'm very concerned when I see these come through and, we're looking at the jobs and all jobs are important. We know that everybody has to start somewhere. And, that's why we have entry-level jobs all the way up to, managers and engineers. But where are these people going to live? How are they going to live on these wages? And if that's what the county is going to support with its investments, I think it's, we have to have more conversations as we constantly are through our housing collaborative, through many other vehicles about housing. but that also goes back to incomes and jobs. And so, I think this is a tricky thing because we want to support job creators. We want to support developing industries and exciting projects and make Albuquerque a place where people want to live and people want to work. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we're getting something of really good value for our taxpayer dollars. And at this point, I'm going to support this because I know that this is the inducement resolution. We'll have another opportunity to look at this down the line. But I think there's further conversations that have to be had and just in the general picture of like I started out with, talking about how these are presented and maybe how we can help the public understand these a little bit better and using some different medians versus means, that kind of thing, I think could be very helpful in our evaluation. So I appreciate your work on this. I know how much work you and your staff do to put every one of these together, and you answer our questions. And I don't want to neglect saying that, but I do, with any of these, I have some concerns, and I hope we can talk again.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivia says, you've seen we've refined the process and are willing to go back and be able to make it even easier for everybody to be able to understand what the deal is and what the county's getting and what the benefit is. So we'll be sure to go back and do that as well.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Benson.
can I also add, the IRBs are an incentive to bring money to the state. Really, that's when I do vote in favor of them, it's because we're incentivizing individuals and corporations to bring money to the state. And we're not paying them to, we're just not charging them as much tax, which I can understand the argument that everybody should be paying taxes. Well, in the case of the Marriott, they wouldn't come to the state. They wouldn't come here. And that's a hotel that hasn't been updated since it was first built in the late 80s. It's right on the interstate. We're trying to attract people. And those developers are bringing in hundreds of millions over the years to spend in our economy to create jobs, but also for that's going to attract tourists. So it's not like we're giving money away. If we didn't issue this, we wouldn't. It's not like we would be making more money. There would be no money being made. This is just deferring, and we will eventually earn taxes on it from these properties. This is just an incentive to get the ball rolling to where we eventually do earn taxes. So that's kind of how I look at IRBs. It's an incentive to create economic stimulation, to bring businesses here, to bring developers here. Where they might go somewhere else, not might, they do. They go everywhere else except here. We're trying to get aggressive to build our economy.
Correct. And Chair Baca, Commissioner Benson will work better to be able to show that the net a benefit to the county and how much money is actually realized over the 30-year period and the value compared to what is being exempted.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea because what we need to talk about is how is this benefiting our community?
Right. Sure.
Commissioner Casal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Commissioner Olivas does make a pretty valid point when it comes to pay. It's hard to tell these people that we're going to give you these tax breaks, but we want you to pay our people that way. But the reason why I think that stance eventually needs to be made, and it's just the bottom line. There's no such thing as affordable housing. That's a terminology that people are using, but it doesn't exist in the state of New Mexico. The cheapest house you can find right now on the market is $280,000. And so you're right, somebody making $30,000 a year, even if they have an 800 credit, will not qualify to buy of what we call now an affordable house, which is different from when I was young. Yeah, we lived in a 1.5 bedroom house and it was 8 of us, but that was actually an affordable house that my parents could get into at whatever, 40 grand, I think, or 25 grand back in the day, right? And even that was high. But these days, I think there is an argument on, and I think I agree, the fact that we do need to look at what incentives are the people that are going to be working for this whoever company or whoever we bring in, and how is that going to change their ability to have quality of life, which is not really wealth in a sense, but what we call family wealth, right? That you have a home that you could pass on to your children, or you have something. I think that's a valid statement and a valid argument. How do we get there without scaring people off? And I know probably Commissioner Benson going, we don't want to scare nobody off, man. But how do we find a middle ground there? So that's just my comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I move approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you, Marcos. Item 10C, Office of Criminal Justice and Behavioral Health Initiatives, Manager Pam Acosta. As she's coming down, Madam Clerk, can you please provide us with the resolution number?
Yes, ma'am. FR 2023-108.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair Baca, Madam Vice Chair Barboa, and Commissioners. Excuse my voice. I don't know, I'm coming down with something. My name is Pam Acosta. I'm the Senior Manager of the Behavioral Health Initiatives. And tonight I'm bringing before you a proposal to renew an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Albuquerque, awarding $369,600 to the county to support the Bernalillo County Community Connections Supportive Housing Program. The Community Connections Supportive Housing Program provides support to individuals identified as unhoused or precariously housed with a diagnosed mental illness and/or co-occurring disorder who have been involved in the criminal justice system and who meet the criteria of high need or high cost as defined by the Community Connections Program. Funds received from the city will be used to provide rental assistance for up to 40 individuals. The motions before you this evening are as follows. Approve the continuation of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, approving a budget increase in the amount of $369,600 from the City of Albuquerque to provide housing vouchers to the Bernalillo County Community Connections Program, thus authorizing the county manager to execute agreements and subsequent contract amendments related to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Albuquerque. Also present in the audience is Amanda Colburn, the Deputy Director of the Bernalillo County Housing Authority, and at this time we stand for any questions.
I move approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Multiple seconds. And so any other questions for Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank you and thank the City of Albuquerque for a partnership here. You know, we talked a lot about that and the importance of that tonight. And here they are transferring, $369,000 to us to administer this important program, providing housing connections for some of the most vulnerable people in our community. So it's part of what we're talking about. There are good things happening. Things can get better. And this is how it happens with partnerships and making sure that we don't duplicate efforts, but rather if one entity is good at doing something like we are with this, they're supporting us and making it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner.
I was just going to say the same thing, that I just want to mark really loud and clear that this is a lot of money coming because the city is trusting that we have strengths in this area and that we could do a good job. So partnership is the name of the game. Our communities pay their taxes to both entities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acosta. That passes unanimously. Let's see, item 11, approvals, finance. DC, let's see. Ms. Benavides. American Rescue Plan Act.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Denise Benavides. I'm the Financial Analyst for the Finance Division. The motion before you is to approve ARPA funds in an amount not to exceed $708,000 for NI-03 premium pay private sector in accordance with expenditure category 4.2 for eligible employee grant applications from District 2 specifically for evaluation and distribution of grant funding to third-party non-government employers with eligible workers performing essential work. The existing District 2 applications were received between January 9th, 2023 and January 11th of 2023 and were not processed due to the exhaustion of the funds of the program. This project will support and assist qualified for-profit and nonprofit businesses physically located within Bernalillo County District 2 with eligible employee one-time bonuses for retention and recognition of essential work in sectors deemed critical to the health and well-being of its residents during COVID-19 pandemic and the economic recovery. I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Benavides. Any questions?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Casada.
Yeah, this is something that I also had decided to do. I know we kind of hashed it out the last meeting with Commissioner Benson's district. I just want everybody to be aware that during COVID, while I was the commission, my district had the highest cases. It had, because let's face it, that's where the workforce is. And they're the ones who did the providing of childcare, working in the hospitals, cleaning hospital rooms, providing, the wraparound services to a community during a lockdown. So, I was able to help other different entities in my district with some of my ARPA funds, but I felt that with the remaining of it, this was probably the best thing to do for that community because of what Commissioner Benson said at the last meeting, that this is for the people who stepped up and did what we asked them to do. The ones who worked in the grocery stores, stocked the grocery, made sure everybody ate, the kids were taken care of. And so with that, I want to do the same thing for my district, and I hope for support and approval. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Benson.
I think you said it perfectly, and I just want to reiterate, these were the unsung heroes, the recipients of these funds. They were the unsung heroes during COVID, the ones that were just showing up every day. So well done, Commissioner Quezada. And also to clarify, this goes straight to the actual employees. The business organization doesn't benefit from it. I mean, they benefit because they, get to reward their employees, but the funds go straight into their pockets. And they weren't asking for it. They weren't expecting it. The businesses applied for it. The funds ran out, so they didn't think they were going to get it. And so this is just a blessing you get to give them, to give to those employees who showed up to work when everyone else may not have. Good job.
And I'd like to thank you, Ms. Benavides and Mr. Gonzalez, for working together on this with the community. Vice Chair Barboa.
Thank you. I think this is so important for our businesses. I'm glad you're doing this. I did have a question just because I looked at the list of folks that applied. These are people who had already applied. There was a big conversation last time about it falling within a certain time. And you may have answered this question last time, but sorry if I don't remember it. It's just like, if this is just for District 2, which I totally support, if there was, and that 700,000, if there was only 600,000 businesses that actually end up qualifying for the money, what happens with the 100,000 left over or whatever?
Members of the commission, Vice Chair Barboa, that money would go back to Commissioner Quesada's district directive funding.
Okay, great, thank you.
For him to use wherever else he sees fit in his district.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Did we have a motion on this?
I moved for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Getting late. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And that passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Announcement of the next commission meeting will be Tuesday, October 24th, 2023, here at 5 p.m. at the Ken Sanchez Commission Chambers. And if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.